Hey everybody, Bob Ciccarello for another edition of Monday Night Muscle, and a special edition it is. We've got the 7-time champ, Flex Lewis.
Pleasure to be aboard.
Bro, I've missed saying that for the first time in 7 years.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance to say that on the Olympia stage. It seemed a little weird.
Yeah, well, sitting there actually and watching the show was pretty weird from my perspective.
Right.
But it was a good year to take away. Again, just seeing all the athletes up their battle last year, seeing Brandon take that win as a personal friend of Brandon's for many years also. Right. So yeah, to say it again, I missed that voice being announced by yourself. Yeah.
Well, Flex, we're here in Tampa actually for the New York Pro for the first time. Special circumstances being what they are. Tim Gardner putting his efforts together for Steve Weinberger, so we're able to continue on with this tradition of the New York Pro. So we got a chance to sit down with you, so we're gonna take this interview and get it while we can get it.
Yes.
But we just watched the prejudging together, and you had some great competition.
It was a fantastic lineup, and we had Max Charles, Hassan, my training partner John De La Rosa, Ian. Who else was in the mix there on the last call?
A whole bunch up there.
It was a very competitive lineup, and everybody brought their A game. And considering the times that everybody's had to go through to get onto that stage with gyms, shutdowns, and, you know, again, just life, job losses and everything else is a testament to every one of the athletes to make it here today.
Now, interesting, because we had the 212 along with the Open, so you got a chance to see them both. So what are your feelings when you're watching, because now you're in between, you're currently getting ready for the Olympia, of course we're going to get all into that. But 212 is where your heart is.
Yes.
So I know you got a little special something there when you're watching the 212 guys. And then, of course, the Open guys, you got to be licking your chops.
Yeah. So, again, looking at the 212, it's always going to be my baby. Always, again, when I won that title, I felt I needed to really take it to the next level and try and open as many doors as I can with that 212 title. So seeing now the new blood that's coming through this weekend, again, the battle was up there today. Yeah. And of course, seeing the Open class guys, yes, I'm biting at the chop, just watching the shows, getting excited. It's all motivation for me.
Yeah.
Seeing who now is going to walk away victorious this weekend is nothing but motivation for my training. So I'm very excited. Yeah.
Well, Flex, you and I go way back.
Way back.
So I knew you when you first came in the Golds.
Yeah.
Me and Tom Prince were training. You came up, introduced yourself. He said, "Hey, I'm Flex Lewis," and Tom kind of chuckled because he goes, "Hey, man, we already got one Flex, all right." So. You know, all right, James. You know. But it was kind of funny because we started back then. Now, there was no, like, we were just starting what was then the 210.
Yes.
Which then went to the 202, and then it finally settled and found its spot at the 212. But take me back to those first days when we first met.
Wow. Well, when we first met, I mean, I remember many firehouse meals way back when.
Bob Bowles is the firehouse.
Bob Bowles. We had a great, it was a great era for me. Of course, I came from Wales. I was staying in California, and I came there wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I was just trying to absorb all that bodybuilding was giving me in Gold's Gym, in the Mecca. And to pick up on that story about Tom Prince, he was an absolute gent. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but he said to me, "I will not call you Flex."
That's right.
Until you win your first pro show. And I remember competing in the Europa, winning the first ever 202, coming back to Goals and the firehouse more specifically, and seeing Tom. And as soon as I walked in through the door, he was just like, "Hey, what's up, Flex? Come and join us." Yeah. And it was just like an initiation.
That's true.
We didn't even say a word, never said anything about, oh, I'm going to call you Flex now. He was just like, "Hey, Flex, come on."
That's a true story, though.
True story.
He would not call you Flex because of Flex Wheeler.
That's
true. We already have a Flex, right? Remember him?
Yeah.
And he thought it was funnier than funny, but he says, I will call you Flex when you win a show.
Yeah.
And boom, you got the win, bro.
I got it.
You've been Flex Lewis ever since.
I have, yeah.
But
good memories, though. Very good times. Very good times. And again, I learned a lot back then. I was very honored, obviously, to see you pretty much every day at some point and get the worldly knowledge of Bob and learn the ropes in a sense. I really feel like I've had an apprenticeship in bodybuilding from a very young age, even with Gaspari and.
I even helped you with your English, bro.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, man.
Because I used to give you all kinds of stuff because you guys speak so fast.
Yes.
From Wales, and of course I've always referred to you as the second greatest import, of course, past Tom Jones.
Well, I can't beat Tom Jones. Let's go.
Nobody can, bro. It's not unusual.
What's up, pussycat? You know it goes.
But that said, so you get into the 202. And it didn't take you long to get up there. I mean, like, you were an instant hit, but you had a great, good amateur physique, and you brought it up a notch, and you were an instant competitor in the pros. But let's fast forward just a little bit. So you won a few titles. You actually dabbled in the Open a little bit back then.
I did.
But the 212 was your thing. Take me back to your first Olympia win.
Well, I'll end by, before I say that, I really felt the last ever 202 was going to be my title. Of course, it was a battle between myself and Kevin English, and it went down to the wire. Of course, Kevin took it. Yeah. It was there that I said to myself, I know what it feels like now to put everything in and still not walk away with that victory. So the 212 having that extra weight, which I was really needing at that point in time, was a blessing. So I said, this is going to be my class. So, I threw myself straight into the mix. I went straight into the first ever 212.
10 pounds. I mean, that's in bodybuilding, when you're talking about you're sucked down, dried out, the whole 10 pounds is a lot.
10 pounds on 5'6" is a lot. So
5'6"?
Yeah. 5'6", my friend. Right. Get that tape measure up, Bob. I'm no shorter. But yeah, for me, that class was I felt made for me. And I slowly filled out my frame, like 2 to 3 pounds every single year, because I wasn't the top end of the weight when I got into it. Of course,
you actually sold a few pounds.
Yes.
Now, fast forward to the end of your career, you're trying to make 212. Big difference between the beginning and the end. 7 years time.
Most definitely a issue. Probably the last 3 years, because every year was an evolution. In my head, I didn't say I wanted to do 7 titles. I didn't say I had X amount of titles. My goal was to win, defend. I feel if you want to be a champion, you have to win and you have to defend that to call yourself a legitimate champion. So my goal was obviously to win, defend, and then every single year, then I had to find the evolution as to why I wanted to come back to that 212 title, and I did. The first year was to win it. The second year was to defend it. The third year, we found out my wife was pregnant. Right. And then I wanted, the fourth one was, I believe, the 50th year. That's right. Or maybe the third year was the 50th year. The fourth one was we found out Ali was pregnant. And then I had this vision in my head about bringing my daughter up on stage. So every year I had these little goals that I wanted to attack. And then the 6th year, I said to myself, this is probably going to be the end. But I didn't want to announce it up until I was on that stage. And of course, we had Dallas pass in, the hurricane that came through.
No, that's right.
And many months later, I said to myself, you know what? I can't retire on this. I can't walk away from this class. So going into 2018's Olympia, I knew it was going to be my last year. I actually publicly announced it before.
Yeah, you put it out there before.
Yeah, way before. So I wanted the fans to get behind it. We had a lot of fans that traveled all around the world that had maybe not been there for a couple of years just because I was doing my last to see myself my last time on stage, 212. And I couldn't have asked for a better prep. Everything fell into place. Yeah. It was probably one of the best preps. Mentally, physically, I was just, everything was just, all boxes were ticked.
In your 7-year run, was there any year in there where you thought to yourself after prejudging, like, I don't know.
Yes.
And I know a specific show that you're going to mention, because you were backstage and we were buying time. I was buying time on stage because you weren't feeling too good.
Which one are you going to say? You tell me. What is this?
Listen, it's got to be, it wasn't the last 2. I'm going to say 3 years ago.
The Olympia?
At the Olympia. You were backstage and stuff wasn't going on here.
It was the 50th year.
50th anniversary.
It was the worst prep of my life.
And things were in doubt. I mean, I know you weren't, you were doing everything you could. I mean, literally, I was delaying stuff on stage because you were in the back yakking up yesterday's dinner and stuff. But take me back to that moment and what was going on.
I just remember being prejudging, lying back there, and we have the same guys that we normally hang out with. Guy Sistanino is always pretty much near me. We're lying back there, and I'd had issues going into the show with my stomach, but I didn't really know how bad it was. So again, you're with the guys, and the next thing, guy goes, "What's that noise?" And it sounded like somebody had tipped a 2-liter bottle of water upside down. And I put my hand on my stomach, and it was just my stomach literally making that noise. And I was laughing and joking until then it just locked down.
Oh boy.
So we were probably about 15 minutes before walking on stage, and Remember that year was shut down. There was a lot of celebrities back there.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't bring any coaches in, so it was like the Wizard of Oz. I had to go to the curtain and whisper through to Neil. I was like, Neil, meet me at the curtain. You know, he's talking through, trying to game plan something for 15 minutes. And what we ended up doing was remarkable in that short period of time. It was just, again, I think it was gas or whatever else from something I ate and reacted to. But again, it was one of them battles that I thought to myself, wow, this could go either way. It
was a little scary because word's getting up to me that, look at, Flex ain't doing too good back there. And I'm like, oh no, like this is not, this ain't good.
No.
And, of course I'm throwing out announcements and, hey, folks, 50th anniversary, what a great time, get your Olympia tickets for tonight. But word keeps, how we doing? It's like, well, I think he's going to get up on stage. But I'm thinking to myself, listen, forget about how you feel. Bodybuilding is about how you look.
Exactly.
And I know at that point you might be feeling like complete dog.
Yeah.
But you got a title to go for here. So was it affecting? I mean, you still ended up. The moral of the story is you ended up winning. But was there a doubt in there at some point that I may not win this thing?
Yeah, I'm an incredibly confident person when I put all my ducks in a row, and there was like one duck that was missing in this prep. And
you were duckless.
I was duckless. I had one continuous pain that kept on recurring, and we didn't really know what it was. We ended up finding out the issue at the end, and I'll tell you about that. But at that show, there was like a slight lack of confidence, and I had to fake it until I made it.
Yeah.
The prejudging was an horrendous thing. I went up there and I could hit certain body parts, anything that I inhaled on, front double bicep, lat spread, when I had to take that breath of air in, side chest, it absolutely killed me. But again, not many people knew about that. They thought that I was being a little lazy up on stage in a sense. I had to just smile and persevere through.
Yeah.
And Eduardo looked absolutely phenomenal. That was the year.
Yeah.
So we readdressed the situation after prejudging. We knew it was close, and then we came back for that night show, and we just eliminated all the variables. And as soon as I went up on that stage and I got rid of them, them stomach issues, I went back into the Flex Lewis persona. But after the show, my wife is a nutritionist, dietitian by schooling, and she had seen me having these flare-ups for years when we were together, and she said, something is not right. There's no way that you can be eating so clean and this is happening. We ended up having a really severe sort of food allergy test, blood work and all this, and we come back and found out that 90% of my breakfast was one big food allergy starting off the day. As the day went on, I had these other food allergies that were popping up, and I pretty much eliminated everything.
Now, don't you know at that point you got a protocol, obviously. Was there different stuff you were eating at that point? Like, how do you not know what doesn't agree with you or what does?
It's by trial and error at this point. I eat the same thing even to this day.
So you didn't change up the protocol?
No.
It was the same things you were eating, but for some odd reason it just affected you differently this time.
Yeah, your body can actually create a food allergy against things.
Because that would be as everybody's watching this, going to be going, wait a minute, how does he not know at that point? He's Mr. Olympia. He's been a pro bodybuilder for years. You don't know what bothers you and what don't. But, so it's just something that created itself.
It created itself. Again, I'm a creature of habit. Monotonous day in, day out, Groundhog Day.
Sure.
But I found out I was severely allergic to oatmeal. Bananas, egg whites.
Which you had all three checked off that morning.
All my breakfast, pretty much. So as obviously the time went on, I eliminated everything and I started putting things back in. And as soon as I would put something back in, it was an instant flare up. I don't even cheat on pizzas or anything like that. So I can really control and find out what was affecting me. So we got to the bottom of it very fast, but it nearly cost me that title, and that scared me. So the next
I think that's as close as you ever got to not retaining the title. But I've asked this question to Ronnie Coleman over the years. Always got a real interesting answer. Of course, any answer from Ronnie's interesting. Always. Yeah, buddy. If I lined up all 7 Flex Lewises that won the Olympias, each respective year, and put you guys all on stage next to each other, who wins?
Good question.
I mean, clearly the answer is Flex Lewis, but which year wins? Who beats everybody else on that stage? Battle of yourself.
Probably one person would say, I've had a few different physiques in the early stage until they all started looking the same.
Well, it's true though, because you were still growing, so to say, into the class. And then, so I would think like the first, 3 or 4 was kind of everything was a bigger, Flex 2.0,
Yes.
3.0, and then like you say, maybe the last 3 or so was about the same Flex, but you had kind of peaked out.
I would say the last Olympia, because it has meaning too. There was a lot of young guys that were coming through.
Yeah.
I've
Got the new blood.
New blood, and the new blood came in with that extra confidence, and they all were, banging the drum that they were coming to win, which, it's everybody's right to do.
Yeah.
But I felt like I had a point to prove, and I had stepped on stage all around the world. After Olympia, I was always the first athlete to go on the road, to compete in Korea, to compete in Prague, to compete in whatever.
You
else
were
I
one of
went.
those, every anniversary Olympia guys. I mean, you actually went out and competed on the circuit.
Yeah. I wanted to step against different athletes. The athletes that had never qualified or actually couldn't get visas to come to the US. So,
like Hadi Chupan.
like a perfect example, Baito.
Yep.
I stood against the best. R.I.P. I stood against the best, and I wanted to be that athlete. I'm a fan of many different sports, and I've seen so many athletes that don't face the best athlete in that generation because for whatever reason, whether it's promoters that are trying to compete them apart, obviously like boxing and stuff.
Yeah.
So having that mindset, I was like, you know what? I can control my variable. I can actually go to a country where a show is taking place that they're going to be at, and I can compete to prove to myself that I am the best, not saying, because this person couldn't get to the US or whatever else. So I done that every single year. But again, I think the best look I probably brought to stage was the one I brought in Korea. And I also, my best Olympia look was probably the last one because I had to not only make the weight, but also bring that extra special package to finish my career on.
Because you were, like we mentioned earlier, you would announce beforehand you were done.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like a last minute thing or you got on stage and decided, it was known well in advance. Okay, Flex this is it. You've done all you can do.
Yeah.
You want to go out on top, and you did. And that was a great moment. I mean, I go back to that moment on stage, and I was able to belt that that extended Flex Lewis, which I love doing, by the way.
You love it. I love it.
And you love it. Listen,
I do.
The funny thing is we've talked about this, but people do that to you all the time.
Everywhere, airports, malls.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Anyway, it's the tagline now, I guess. And somebody just come up to me and say, "Flex Lewis," I
take great pride in that. I like that. But
yes,
is there a difference between Flex Lewis and James Lewis?
Massive difference. Most definitely. One has an alter ego,
What's the difference?
Well, James Lewis is...
Who's James Lewis?
Dad, husband, family guy. And Flex Lewis is everything that you see on stage, off stage, walking around expos, being the first guy at an expo and the last person to leave. I really embed myself in the champion's role. Even before I won a title, you have to walk, talk, and act like the champion long before you do. And that obviously then comes with its territory and its perks and also its responsibilities. It's like, the show this weekend, no, I will never stop and say no to a photo. Sure. Hence what you just...
Yeah, it took us a while to actually get to this interview, but listen, to your credit, you've always been a champ for the fans. Like I've been all over the world with you. I've seen you interact with fans. You've never denied anybody. You would wait till the last person. I'll meet the Olympians. The last person would get their autograph or buy their shirt or whatever you had to offer. Even though you were the champ and nobody would have batted an eye if you said, "Look, I got to go. I got to get ready." You've always been a people's champ. But the cool thing is for me, I was able to watch you come in as James Lewis.
That's true.
Saying you were Flex.
Yeah.
Earn the title of the next Flex. Create your own persona. But you came in at the right time, Flex, where you came in from the beginning, and you became the leader of the 212s in spirit and obviously in title, being the champ, and then of course eventually the 7-time champ. But the 212 was a tight-knit group. You guys have always kind of, even though you're competing against each other and you're going to do anything you can to beat each other, you also work together.
Yes.
But everybody looked up to you as the champ, as the ambassador of the 212s.
I guess they did. I don't know how to say it, but I would say, I guess.
But you embraced it, I guess, is my, I don't know if there's an actual, it's more of a statement than a question.
Well, I appreciate that. I think because the 212 class, it opened up a a lot of opportunity for many athletes. I felt like I had to grab the bull by the horns. I know we've spoken about this in the past. You were a massive pioneer for that 212 class, Bob, and I really appreciate that. But I think when it came down to it, the class, I didn't want it to be a sideshow.
Right.
I wanted it to be its own entity. I wanted the athletes to have their own shine. And all the athletes now, if you look at the athletes from old to currently where we are, you know, some of these 212 guys were actually signed by big supplement companies and put as faces for their company.
That's right.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
So the goal was for not athletes be seen as you're an open class, you're a 212 class. No, you're an athlete.
Right.
You're an athlete that walks, talks, and promotes the sport. And, you know, a lot of people more so can relate to the 212 class because of maybe stature, height, whatever it be, as opposed to the open class. So with great athletes, and it's not just, it wasn't a one-man show, great athletes we had back in the earlier stage of the 212, we all came together and we've done a great job in actually pushing it to where it is now. So the new blood that's coming through can reap the rewards.
Right.
And again, I was talking to Derek Lunsford earlier and just saying about the history of where the 212 class has come along, because I feel like a lot of the guys don't know what we had to do to get the class to where we are.
Because there was, I mean, when we put this together some years ago, and it was proposed, brought it to Jim. Jim was like, he was a little reluctant. He didn't know if it was going to take off or not. But he did, and he says, "Okay, let's give it a shot." And we put it together. No 212 guy. All right, we'll just use 212. You know, it was different weights at that point. Nobody had a contract.
No.
Nobody had nothing. Nobody was cracking the top anything in the open because, again, there's such a disparaging weight, which was kind of my point to the whole process, which was, look, you're talking about potentially. The old days, it was a little less because you didn't have 260-pound monsters on stage. Now you do. Big difference when you're giving up 50 pounds of muscle to compete fairly on the same stage. I know everybody's a pro, but there's differences there. There's reasons that there's weight classes. Okay, you came in there, ushered in. This is why I bring up being the leader. Contracts were made, guest posings, because there's a difference. And we talked about this years ago, Flex. I remember when there was maybe 3-4 years ago, people were speculating, well, how many of these is he going to win? Maybe go to the Open. And your point was well taken, which was, why give up being the best in the world? Listen, I could probably go in there. I'd probably be competitive. Let's just say I took a 5th or a 6th. Great. Got a little check in your hand, but you're 6th in the world. Right now, I'm the champ.
Yeah.
I'm first place in the world. Why give that up? More business opportunity, more prestige, more everything, being the world champ, right? The Olympia champ, than 5th, 6th, or 7th in the Open.
And it's a brand, right? So that's what I was trying to convey to a lot of these athletes, is you have to see yourself as a brand. Now, whatever that is to you, look, let's take Guy Sistanino, right?
Yeah.
He is a hunter.
Yeah.
He is he's got that little redneck thing going on with his beard and his his energy, but he wears his heart in his sleeve, and he's not he's won pro shows, 212 pro shows, but he's become a character.
Yeah.
He's become a figurative person that he's got a line of people that go to see him because of who he is, what he talks about, acts, trains hard. He's got that brand. And now the other 212 guys are seeing these athletes that are now winning shows, and they've decided, okay, I got to look at who I am and what I represent. Listen, for me, I know my story, right? Coming from Wales, coming over here, I'm a dad, blue collar. There's whatever it is that people can relate to me on, and that ticks that box. Great. I'm very blessed to have my fan base, and I know obviously I'm taking it from the 212 class into the Open class. I'm flying that flag up there in December as one of the shorter bodybuilders that are taking on the big guys, right?
Right.
So, but again, if I went and listened to everything that will never happen for me by following these routes and paths that were told, again, first show. You're never going to win your first show. Won my first show. You're never going to win your pro card.
Right.
You're never going to do anything in America. Sure. I got my WIDA contract and etc. But I love being told I can't, because then I've got something to prove. Not that I need to, but it's just
a little extra incentive never hurts, right?
Yeah, and and with the Open class now coming up in December, I feel the same thing. He's too short. He's too this and too that. you know, the chips will fall where they fall in December, but I know what I'm going to be bringing in, and it's going to be obviously a different look to everybody.
I want to move right towards that. Great segue, Flex. So 2 years ago, you get the storybook ending. Couldn't have wrote it any better. 7th Olympia in a row, best 212 of all time. Record we'll probably never see beat, at least not in our lifetimes. You did exactly what you wanted to do. You went out on the Olympia stage with your hand raised in the air, did your speech, standing ovation. Okay? Beautiful. Last year, you were in the audience.
I was. Very weird.
How was that?
Very weird.
Now, that's the first time since your amateur days, really. I mean, since you started, because literally you competed every year. You got your pro card. You got a pro win. You got to the Olympia, and then you won every year. So there was no year off in there. You had them consecutively. Take me back to last year when you go, and there's no prep.
Yeah.
You're not there with the boys, with your regular 212 crew.
That's true.
You're not the champ anymore. You're the former champ.
Yeah.
Take me back to last year.
That was weird times. I remember being in the hotel room with my wife and not knowing what to do, because I normally have such a schedule.
Talk about uncharted waters.
Yes.
Like you don't even know what to do with yourself at that point.
I normally have a camera crew that's either following me for some sort of documentary. I've either got a media interview. I've normally got things to do in the booths, and I'm planned out, and I've got a team around me that's telling me, you go here, you got to be back here, you got to do this. And last year I was sitting in my hotel room totally stress-free, and I just did not like it. And of course, the show, the show was one of these situations where I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go. Even though I knew I was going, it was just having to sit there and watch a show that I wasn't part of for the first time.
It'd be a little weird.
It was weird, but the Olympia organization always have looked after me, and they made sure that I was sitting, right down the front to make sure I didn't miss a beat.
Oh yeah.
So myself.
Still get the shout out.
Yes, I still got the shout out. And I was, again, I watched the show and I got to see my long-term friend Brandon Curry win that title. We were old neighbors in Tennessee.
Yeah, I know you guys are close, so I know that had to be special for you to see how he's gone through, because you did a lot of sacrifice to get where you were. He did the same. Even more so, maybe, because he's a family man now. I mean, you started, as a young man, you didn't have a family, a wife, kids, nothing at that point. He's got, 4 kids, 10 kids, and he's got,
Brandon,
maybe more now. Maybe I have a whole baseball team, but
all respects, Brandon.
But listen, he went to Kuwait.
Yes.
And he trains there. He's there now. Actually, he just made his way over there, so he's got his prep that he's starting for the Olympia.
Yes.
But so you're in uncharted waters. You watch the Olympia. The 212 champion is crowned.
Yeah, Kamal, which is another friend of mine.
Another good friend of yours, and he was tremendous.
Yes.
I mean, he brought it. He looked great. He's in his 40s.
Yes.
So he's been around, but you knew him obviously, and a lot of people that follow bodybuilding knows him. But he wasn't really well known here because he couldn't get out of the amateur stuff overseas and all that kind of weird stuff. But he got the title. Now we're going to fast forward, okay? Because you knew where you were going, but not a lot of the fans did. Shows in the books. Okay, you got out of Vegas. Okay, that was weird, but all right. Now we're on the path. You announce, I'm going into the Open.
Yeah.
Now the fans out there love it.
Ballistic.
Because they always want, and I get this all the time. Why don't you put the 212 guy up against Phil Heath at the time? You guys were matching wins, for years in respective divisions. And the answer that I would give was always the obvious one. Look, they're 2 different divisions. This is not a lightweight and a heavyweight, okay? It's a 212, it's on its own.
Yeah.
This is the men's open. If Flex Lewis wants to go against the big boys, then he can go in the open and go against the big boys.
Yeah.
And now you are.
And now I'm here. I threw myself into the mix.
Are they the big boys or are they just the taller guys?
Just taller guys to me. I don't look at any other athlete, and again, with all respects, and even when Phil had done the announcement, I prepared that Phil was going to be doing the announcement. I knew it would be absolutely foolish for Phil not to do it. Even Kai Green, this being an Olympia that would be wide open for any athlete. But every one of them athletes has their traits and their weaknesses. Same for myself. But I know what I can bring to the stage, and I can, and again, conditioning is going to be my forte. I'm not going to be the biggest guy up on stage. I've made improvements since the last time I've been seen on 2018. But again, conditioning and suffering to get into that conditioning is what the 212 class taught me. And now with that added size, that's what is going to be brought in December.
Well, this is interesting because, we always talk about the big boys and all that. But if you really break it down, the big boys aren't that much bigger than you. Brandon isn't that much taller. Dexter isn't that much taller. Hadi Chupan, you've competed against, right? He's about the same height as you, right?
Oh, yeah.
William Bonac isn't playing basketball anytime soon, right?
That's true.
So when you really break it down, now we got a couple big boys. You got Big Ramy, you got Steve Kuklo. Right? There's a couple big guys out there. But when you really put it in there, I mean, you're about the same. So the playing field gets level a little bit more these days. There were some years past you had some 6-footers in there, and it was a different lineup.
Different era.
Yeah. So give me your thoughts on competing against, your buddy Brandon as the champ, and now you got Phil coming back. But give me before we get into the Phil thing, give me your overview on the entire lineup.
In terms of the athletes that are going to be there this year?
Just all the names I just gave you. Like, you're up there with those guys.
I watched every one of them last year.
Sure.
And sitting in the audience, again, with all respects, I felt I could have beaten them. Because I sat there and I know that I looked at everybody's conditioning, and other than Hadi was bang on the money. Patrick Moore came in conditioned too.
Great new guy. He upped to the Olympia lineup last year.
But nobody was in the conditioning that I felt was Olympia worthy. You've got the guys who got the muscle on them.
Yeah.
But this is a bodybuilding. It's a combination of all of the above. It's aesthetics, conditioning, symmetry. It's the complete package. So again, with all respects to Brandon and William and everybody who was up on that stage last year, I'm looking at it from a competitor standpoint. And that's why I sat there and I was like, man, I could have jumped up there. But everything happens for a reason. I walked out to that 2019 arena and I felt, wow, so I've got a year to mentally condition myself. The people would have thought over the years, it's like, okay, you've done 212, you can jump up. No, there's a lot of mental preparation that has to be done. I had to believe in myself that I could win this show. Again, you can say, oh yeah, I'm going to win that whatever show I step forward in. No, it's not. There's a process that goes along with that. And when you believe, everything will follow suit. And I had people that believed in me more than I believed in myself. And now all the stars have aligned where we're all working together for this end cap victory. And when I say, I believe I can win, I truly believe that I'm doing everything in my power to do that and bring that victory home in December. But again, it's all, whatever happens in the day. But I can walk away come December knowing that if the plan is executed, I've done everything in my power. No, can't promise I'm going to be any taller. But
probably not. Good bet.
I'll promise that
but you don't need
my
to be.
Best. Yeah,
that's a cool thing. But you mentioned Kai Green in there, and you also now mentioning the mental component. I think people tend to discount that because it's a physical show. Who's got the best physique? I think people tended to take out the mental aspect of it. But I got to firmly believe, because we both saw Kai and Phil battle. And Kai always came up on the short end of the stick. But then he would come to the Arnold and you would see a different Kai Green. Not only one that won the title pretty much every time that he went out there, but a much improved physically. How much of that do you think was mental, that Phil just had his number? That Kai just didn't believe in his heart he could beat Phil at the Olympia?
When you're the champ, you have that aura. I think you take the stage. So you're always, as the athlete that's chasing that champion, I feel sometimes you can be, have that sort of step back a little bit. Now, I'm not saying this is the case with Kai and Phil, because that battle you could have gone either way, most people say anyway. Yep. But I will say that when Phil turns on Phil Heath, he exudes that championship-esque energy. When he walks on stage, he demands that stage. And that's what we were talking about today with the athletes up on that stage. There's some athletes up there that had a phenomenal look, but they just didn't have that, this is my stage, come and beat me type of presence. And again, that energy, that confidence comes with whatever you got to do to dig that out. And I've seen many athletes lose shows because they don't really know what they look like.
Right.
But I've also seen some athletes that think that they look a lot better too.
Well, that's part of the game. Yeah, we see that. I asked you what the difference between Flex Lewis and James Lewis is. What's the difference, in your opinion, between Phil Heath and The Gift?
Oh, good question. I don't know, Phil, when
You just talked to Phil the other day. You guys had a nice conversation. But you said specifically, I talked to Phil the other day.
Yeah, Phil is just a remarkable, wise-worded champion. Again, I feel because of my 7 years of winning the title, I can really talk and pass back to the next generation, or talk at great length with confidence about maybe motivational talk, whatever else. So when him and I jumped on the phone the other day, we just talked about nothing but life.
Talk to me about Phil, the competitor on stage. Like I say, you're going to be up. You're not going to be on stage with Phil Heath. You're going to be on stage with the Gift. Yeah, the 7-time Olympia champion. So myself and Phil would share the same dressing room every single year for the Olympia. It's like a little bit of a lucky charm type of thing, you know. You're going to do that this year?
And I don't know, but I would see Phil walk into the changing room, and I'd see Phil Heath walk out. And when he walked out, it was just this confidence that comes with being the champ.
Like turning the head around.
Exactly.
Like over the top for Stallone.
But I also know I do that myself too. Yeah. There's an alter ego that I think that comes part of being the champion, but it stays on that stage. As long as it stays on that stage, you can't bring it off the stage, because to be, walking around and, I'm the champ, it doesn't work in this world we're living in. So humble, driven, confident is what I project. But when I'm up on that stage, I'm Flex Lewis, and it's going to be hard to beat me. That's the mentality you have to have.
Well, you can bank on the fact that I'm going to talk to Dan Solomon. I'm going to make sure you guys have the same dressing room.
Well, that's good. You can have it.
Because that is good stuff right there. You can't beat that. Now, I don't know what Phil thinks about that, but what did you think about Phil? Well, let me ask you 2 questions. Mm-hmm. What did you think about Phil not going in last year? Did he blow it?
I would think that would be a personal preference. I mean, like everybody says about me, why didn't I do that show last year? I just wasn't ready.
Well, different circumstance though. Mm-hmm. You announced you were retiring from the 212. Now, you never said bodybuilding. Everybody knew that. Everybody figured you were probably going to go to the Open.
Yeah.
Phil lost the title. Mm-hmm. So, big difference here, okay? Mm-hmm. And he didn't come back to get the title last year. Now, there's a lot of speculation that, listen, had Phil gone in, he would have, killed Brandon. He would have gotten his 8th, he'd be going for the record now. But that's speculation. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. Brandon won that fair and square. He beat everybody that was on that stage that came to compete. Yep. But Phil opted not to compete. Do you think that was a mistake?
I don't know. We'll see this year. I mean, he's a very hungry athlete, just as am I, just as is Dexter, just as is Brandon. Everybody's got their own channeled energy as to why they want to win this year, and the motives behind it, right? So Phil not competing last year, I think there was a reason for it, whether it was he needed more time to fix his injury, or he maybe wanted to do more endeavors in business. Who knows? It's not my comment to make. But I will say this, that the Olympia this year is probably going to be one of the most exciting ever. You got 4 champions that are going to be there. Dexter Jackson being one, Phil Heath going for 8, Brandon Curry trying to defend, and myself coming up from the 212. Possibly others being thrown into the mix. But if it's just us 4, what a storyline that is. And all of us going through probably one of the craziest years that has ever been in bodybuilding, through all the gym closures and COVID scares, and we're still putting on the Mr. Olympia, and athletes are going to be turning up in the best shape ever.
Compare your hunger to defending your 212 title, and that's pretty intense. I mean, you're going number 5, number 6, number 7. Compare your hunger of that to going into the Open and going against the guys you just mentioned, Dexter, Phil, Brandon as the champ.
Yeah. There's a pressure that comes with it.
Is it different?
Yes. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said to you, it's not that much pressure, only because I felt the pressure really isn't on myself. It's on more so Brandon and Phil. So I'm coming up into a class where nobody's ever seen the best version of myself. I've not even seen the best version of myself. So I'm excited to see that. But then in the last couple of weeks, as the show is getting closer and the Olympia hype is starting to be spoken about and my name is being mentioned more and more, there's a different now type of pressure where it's like, okay, it's coming close.
Yeah, because we're in September now.
Yes,
now,
15.
All things being equal, we'd be at the Olympia next week on our regular year, which is freaky to me because it's like, wow, like Now, luckily, the boys put their ideas together, pushed it off to December, thank God. So the Olympia will live on this year. I'm not so sure that would have taken place if it stayed at this date. That said, so it's becoming real now, man.
It is.
In 3 months, you're going to be on the Olympia stage with those guys.
Yes, it is.
And that's pretty cool.
It is. It's very cool as a fan, as a competitive athlete, but also from the personal standpoint, as I mentioned just now, I would love to just to see what version I can bring.
I've seen your version, as a lot of people have, because everybody's got social media. You're very active on there. But I've seen your version at about 220 something, about 220, 225. And it's impressive.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you even impressed yourself because you got to suck it down traditionally to 212. But you got to give up a little bit of muscle for that because you're in shape. I've seen you. You're in shape at 220 to 225.
6 weeks out.
Now, you know better because you've been around. You're not new, okay? You're not the new guy anymore.
Not anymore.
Does 220, 225 translate on stage, or is this something you got to be careful with? Because 212 was impressive. Listen, you won 7 of these titles, okay? That's not by mistake. Where is your best weight, do you think? Is it at 212, you're in shape, you're the 212 Olympia champ. 220, like we just talked about this earlier, okay? In this interview, 10 pounds is a lot.
Yeah.
But is it a better flex, Lewis? Is it something you worry about?
No. Most definitely, I don't worry. I've seen a version, a slight version of what I want to look like, and then I had to look at the scale and say to myself, "Wow, we've got another 14 pounds to come off this." So that is.
It's gotta be a little sobering, because you think you're in shape at that point.
I am in shape.
You are in shape,
back to front, and I look at my coach, and we're both like, "Wow, we've made it to this point.
Right.
Now we have to make it to the scale." We're not doing it for the visual, we're doing it for the scale. And it's one of them situations where you jump on, you look at a number, okay, congratulations, you made it, but that is a 6-week hell weeks just to suck it in and eat into muscle. So seeing my body go from something where, wow, I would like to look like this on stage, but then having to keep on digging to get to the end cap of this number, to then jump off stage and then compete at that number it's never been disheartening because that's not what I signed up for. I'm a 212 athlete. But going back to what I was saying, it's exciting now. So regardless of the Olympia and everything else, to see myself in what I feel is going to be the best ever look and then bring that to Olympia stage is very exciting. So everybody's going to be bringing their A game. As I said, I feel the pressure is more on Phil and Brandon.
Sure. Because
Phil making the comeback after, taking last year off and then losing it, and then Brandon having the opportunity to compete, to defend that title.
Well, I'm no mathematician, but that weight you just gave plus the 212 cutoff tells me you'd be about 226 on stage.
226 is a good weight.
That's a good weight.
Yeah,
that's a competitive.
It's a good weight.
Is it good enough to beat Phil Heath?
Well, we'll see. I mean,
if Phil shows up looking like Phil Heath, all right, he's back in motion. He's got his mojo back. Does Flex Lewis beat Phil Heath?
Well, I'm training to do that. I know you want the sound bites here, but we'll say that
we'll get plenty of sound bites.
I will say that the best version of me will beat a few athletes, and my goal is to be the last man standing up there. And I hope that Phil, I hope that Dexter, I hope that Brandon, and I wish everybody who is overseas has the ability to compete in this year Olympia, so we can have one of the best, most unique Olympias that's ever taken place.
Well, you're good buddies with Brandon. Now he's the champ. He's got a lot to prove. He wants to prove it wasn't a one-off. He was happy to hear that Phil Heath and you were going in because he wants to beat you guys.
Yep.
He was very upfront with that. And Brandon, he's a perfect gentleman. He's like another Lee Haney, of the modern era. He's the nicest guy you ever met. Nobody's got a bad word to say about Brandon. But he's confident. And he says, I would rather lose to those guys if that's what ends up happening. But I want to beat those guys to solidify myself, to show people this wasn't like a mistake. It wasn't just because we didn't have the greatest lineup last year.
It's true.
Phil's got a huge incentive. He wants the title back. He wants that $400,000 in his pocket. And I know that puts a big smile on your face. But he's chasing history.
History, yeah.
He's chasing history. he can be one of only 3 men with 8 Olympia titles and then go for number 9 should he wish to do so. So he's got a lot to prove. Dexter Jackson is competing in his 20th Olympia.
The last one, too.
Which is crazy.
I know.
At 50 years old, former Mr. Olympia, he wants to go out with the title and hang him up like you did and hang him up on stage. You talk about a great Olympia. Now the question is, can you beat former Olympia champ Dexter Jackson? Can you beat current Olympia champion Brandon Curry? Can you beat 7-time Olympia champion Phil Heath?
If I didn't believe, I wouldn't be sitting here giving this interview. So my mindset is to create history and be the first ever champ. There's never anybody that's won the 212 class and won the open class. Conor McGregor's done it in the MMA. There's many other athletes done it in many other different sports. But I want to be the first ever bodybuilder to become the first ever champ and go down in history for that.
Now you've heard me announce your name 7 times over on stage, bro. The classic and new and still.
Be a beautiful day.
And 6-time and 7-time. We've done that. Can you close your eyes and envision the announcement? Let's just say it's you and Phil.
Yeah.
And now in classic Olympia tradition, ladies and gentlemen, the next name you hear.
This is why I started having that pressure, because from last week on, I really started putting my mind into many different scenarios. And I had that vision about that happening. And again, it just brought a pressure that actually aided my training, not hindered it. So to answer your question, yes. The goal is, as with every single show I've ever stepped foot on, from my amateur days to now the pinnacle in the Mr. Olympia, is to bring the best version of Flex Lewis to every single stage that I step foot on and win, you know? So I wouldn't be committing myself, putting myself through all the sacrifice and doing what I need to do to place in the top 3. I know there's many, people out there that have done their own predictions, and I'm very, very blessed to be mentioned in the top 5. You know, my name a couple of years ago probably wouldn't have been in that mix. So even be mentioned in the top 5 is, unbelievable feat. But that's not what I strive to do. I strive to become the best. Every show, every sport I've ever done, from rugby, track and field, I've always put myself in the position to be the best and train around the best. Iron sharpens iron. There's a reason why I'm living in Boca Raton and have a private gym. I've closed myself away from the world to focus on this one task of becoming the best bodybuilder in the world. And I've done that by achieving my goal of 7 Olympia titles and walking away there. And now we're on to pastures new. So, and as you know, I love to pass back from Dallas, even Rafael Brando. So I've got a great team of people around me, from the young blood that has never tasted a victory. I've said this before, like I brought Rafael Brando in from Brazil. He's that young kid who's never won one single show, but yet he wants everything. So when you have that young energy around you, it brings the old bull out. And then I've got John De La Rosa, who stepped on stage this weekend at Tampa, probably bringing his best package to date, who's one of the OGs. And that's us. We've locked down them doors in Boca Raton and we go for it. All of us have our own goals, we all have our own dreams, and we're there to support one another and bring the best out of each other and kick each other's asses every single session. I can't say the same about other athletes. Other athletes have to go to Kuwait. Other athletes have to do whatever. I created my own version of Kuwait. I can see my family every single day. I can pick bodybuilding up. I can pick bodybuilding back down. So I have complete balance in my life. And that's one of the reasons why I've been able to succeed, because I have that balance outside of bodybuilding. But when I put my foot in that world of bodybuilding, it's 100% or nothing. So 100% or nothing is the attitude going into this year's show.
Flex, I want to look at right into that camera 1 right there, and I want you to give a message to all the competitors that are going to be standing on the Olympia stage with you this year.
All right, guys, so I wish everybody the very best. Safe travels coming in from all over the world. You guys know that I'm going to be bringing that conditioning, and I'm going to be bringing the heat to Las Vegas in December. So I want to wish all the champions, Phil, Dexter, Brandon, and all the other athletes, the very, very best. And we're gonna bring this show to Las Vegas and leave it there. And again, the best ever.
That was good, James Lewis. Now, turn the head around, and I want you to look into that camera as Flex Lewis and give him a message now.
Oh, like Conor McGregor style?
Yeah, come on.
All right, well, everybody knows what I'm going to be bringing in December, so everybody's got to get their shit together because I'm bringing conditioning, symmetry, and all of the above. So I can't speak on anybody else, but everybody knows my track record in the 212 class, plus added size, and I'll leave it right there.
You got it. Flex Lewis, thanks for taking the time out.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it. History in the making, and you might see it right here. Will the last man standing be Flex Lewis?